Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Saṅgha. I hope you are well and feeling welcome here because you are. I would like to begin with an invocation to the Gayatri mantra. So if you know it, you're welcome to join along with me. Om Bhur-Bhuvaswaha Tatsavitur-Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. As we await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being a welcoming environment open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, orientation, ethnicity, etc. Any sort of division which might exist on the surface, let us seek the unity behind our diversity. I believe that because we all have come from the same source, then even our diversity is an indication of what we share in common. What we share in common is that there is so much to express arising from that infinite source. It could never be expressed all at once in one form. Therefore, there must be this multiplicity to have a good chance at expressing it. Hello, BLXY, Bloxy, and thank you, Med11, for the rose that you have sent us, blessing our Saṅgha so early on. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. May we come together as fellow students of life to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share positive sentiments. The world certainly needs it right now. I'm very happy to have you here, dear Bloxy. You are very early. And to all of our early guests joining, I hope that you know that it's going to be all right if there are any challenges in your life right now. Know that they are not here to bring you down. No sort of cosmic punishment. That's not how the universe works. There are lessons and there are blessings, and sometimes we feel blessed, and that's wonderful. Other times we feel like we're in a lesson, and that's still wonderful, just in a different way. We have to see it. Hello, Carp Dovish. Hello, dear Lily. Welcome, Pursuit of a Higher Vibration. Thank you for resonating with my energy. Dear Noisy Nerd, you ask if I do guided meditation. Sometimes at the end of our live streams, I like to end them with one, and the recordings of which I post on my YouTube channel. Thank you for the love, Carp the Fish. Dear James, quite the question you ask. What is our purpose in life? I know that the purpose that a doctor may have is distinct from the purpose that an artist may have, and that may be distinct from the purpose I have and the purpose you have. But our purpose together is certainly being a part of this life at the same time, since no man is an island, no person exists in a vacuum. We all require the interdependence of everything to exist and thrive and express the source of our existence from which we all have arisen. So I think there is purpose in finding community, in uplifting each other and serving one another. How's that for an answer? All I know is that there's so much more that I don't know than I do. And every day I think I chip away at the old block. Allow myself to fall into a bigger piece of the puzzle. So, I have a question of the day, as always, that I like to begin my live streams with. So I ask you all today, how can we make our communities less fearful. I see that fear is a big part of the world today. It seems like there's a lot of fear going around in so many different ways. I think not just our time, but almost every generation has some kind of fear. But today, for the communities that we're part of, what are some ways that we can make it a little less of a fearful place to be in? Dear Blacksea, you share by smiling more. I like that. Yeah. Sometimes all it takes is a smile to be reassured. Hello, dear Linda Lo. Thank you, Blacksea, for the cloud bread that you sent too. Never expected, but always appreciated. Hari Om Tat Sat. A good lyric, dear Doom Knight. Welcome. Dear Noisy Nerd, you share by showing us our own vulnerability. Yeah, absolutely. When we're always hiding something, it feels like there's something that we're not aware of. Having it all out in the open makes the world a less fearful place. Dear James, you had asked, do I think our species will ever find out how we got here? Like, is it spiritual? Suppose that very much depends on precisely what we mean by how we got here. Because of course I know that I came from my mom. And that our ancestral line somehow dates back to what happened on this planet, which arose from planetary nebula, along with our solar system and a solar nebula. Apparently that came from the coalition of gas and plasma left over from the Big Bang. But where did that come from? Oh, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. All I know is that I'm happy to be here now, and that's all that really matters to me. Dear pursuit of a higher vibration, your answer is communication, compassion, and grace. Those are high vibrational words. And dear Linda Lou, you share by allowing each individual to know that they are accepted. I like that. Acceptance is a big part, isn't it? And Mom Star Nation, you share by being courageous ourselves and affirming the positive you see and feel. I love that. Yeah. Courage. Dear Kara, you share to smile from the heart. I like that. And I'm happy you love the reminder to be vulnerable too. That's a great one. Dear Samra, you share simply by being kind. That can make the biggest difference. Dear Anime, you share that you remember me talking about nothingness before. But what is a nowhere? Is a nowhere a place? Indeed. All you have to do is tap right in between the W and the H and press your little space bar. And what do you get? From nowhere to now here. Mom Star Nation, you share by being honest and authentic. You agree with being vulnerable. The softness must return to humanity. I like your usage of softness. Yeah. Good evening, dear Dawn. Dear Candy Cat, you share that you like to think that in every black hole is another universe. Well, you're not alone in that thought, and I heard that many great physicists also had suspicions, like Einstein, Penrose, Hawking. And dear Doom Knight, you share anything you can think of imposes on other people's rights, like canceling fear-mongering news outlets, that can be a very practical step in a direction towards peace. Absolutely. But yes, unfortunately, there is a right to have such news, although it unfortunately imposes on our mental health. I think at least we can balance it with some positive news stations. Dear Bob the Conjurer, you share, where do you start as someone who has never been spiritual but wants to start? That's a good question, and I think the way in which this question is phrased tells us the best place to begin, because there really isn't one. Actually, you've always been spiritual, since spirit just means that essence of your being. That essence of your being, whatever it is, it's always been there. At no point does it suddenly come into existence. That's the very definition of it. It is the changeless part of you. If you are beginning to question that part of yourself, then you are already spiritual in that sense too. Spiritual means wondering about the nature of your true self. Just by asking that question, you've begun. There's no one book, there's no one person to listen to, there's no one meditation practice. It is an inquiry into your subject, spirit. Therefore, it is subjective to you. Just keep an open mind and stay curious, and I am sure that the universe will begin to unfold itself around you. Thank you, dear Kev, for your heart, me, and rose that you sent. Ariom Tatsat. Dear Sylvie, thank you for your rose too. Ganganapataye Namaha. Dear Isabella, or Isabel, sorry, you share listening to others' stories. I like that, just being an ear. Renvox, you share by saying hi to someone. Yeah, I feel acknowledged, less alone. It sounds like quite a dilemma, Bloxy. Melissa, you had shared by having the heart of a child, which I love too. And Teddy, you share that my question implies the collective we. Do I mean I or we? I mean we, as a collective. But remember that the collective is not a hive mind. It is made up of I's and me's, like you and I. Therefore, it's what we do individually as me, myself, and I for the greater whole. Dear Tattvamasi, thank you for your quintet of roses too. Jai Nisargadatta, Maharaj, and Madeleine, thank you for your 24 roses. Hare Krishna. Dear user 118, you share that we can provide other narrative options that don't include fear. I love that. It's the narrative itself which produces the fear, isn't it? We choose to narrate this story. Gaia, you share, be the change you wish to see in the world. I love that. I'm happy to hear your plants give you peace, dear Bloxy. Being with nature is very grounding. Namaskar, dear Ragnhildar. Thank you, dear Doom Knight. Hello, Renee. Dear Allison Acat. Alison Ecat. Alice in Ecat. So many ways I could pronounce her name. Do let me know which one of those was closer. You share access to valid and applicable information. I love that a lot. That's a very practical answer. Hello, Michelle. Welcome, Anna and Kamis. Dear Kev, thank you for another septet of roses. Ariom Tatsat. And Isabel's Fairy Tales, thank you for your rose. Hare Krishna. Dear Michelle, thank you for your 11 roses as well. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. Melissa, you share that we can have the heart of a child and walk only in love, peace, and in spiritual light. That requires a lot of bravery. Indeed. Dear Mom Star Nation, you share that you cry and release every night with me, and you laugh and meet fellow light workers. What a beautiful sentiment. I am honored to be here, and I hope your tears are happy ones. Dear Jane, you ask, what kind of fear are we talking? General anxiety? Whichever makes sense to you. I am happy to hear your thoughts regardless. Dear Rocket, you share that generally you feel that tight-knit communities are generally less fearful and more happy. I like that answer a lot. So how can we become more tight-knit then? And Bubbles, you share, by keeping our heart open to everyone we meet, greeting others with the love of an old friend. How beautiful. And Tattvamasi, you share, by helping understand you are the unborn one, so there is no end, therefore nothing to fear. I like that. Daylin, you share, teach empathy in school and have free therapy for all. Oh, I would love to live in such a society. How can we make that a possibility? Thank you, dear Isabel's Fairy Tales, for your tiny. Yippee! Hello, dear Assad. Dear Mom Star Nation, you ask, what if we turned off the news and went outside and played, reminding us all to play and have fun? I love that. Yeah. We might generalize that with the fear that's happening in parts of our world, that means that we should be afraid in our local neighborhood. But you know, you can open your door, you listen. The space around us might be a lot more peaceful than we think. And if it's not, and because we're a part of it, that means we have an ability to change it too. Thank you, dear Sylvie, for your team bracelet and heart me. Jai Sitaram. And Anna, thank you for your music play. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Alicine Cat, thank you for teaching me. I'm happy you find a lot of peace in this live stream, dear Doom Knight. And community gardens you add too. I love seeing community gardens. Yeah. Jane, you share that diversity is the key to stop wars before they start. When you do that, a country doesn't need waste over needless fighting. You are so right with that. As long as there does exist some separation, we've created an in-group and an out-group. If we just make it inclusive, what is there to fight over? Dear Teddy, you ask a question. Is there such a thing as a healthy fear? For example, being fearful of speeding very fast. I like that. That's a good question. I think that surmounts to a kind of cautiousness. That we know that if we were to do such a thing, then there'd be good reason to fear. So we remain cautious not to create such fearful things. And dear Assad, you share by teaching mindfulness in formative young years. I love that. Yeah, the psychological development of our youth is so important. What a precious time that is. Hello, dear Maverick. Thank you for your love and light and blessings, dear Linda Lou. And Bubbles, you share that in a practical way, you guess, you walk with your dog around the neighborhood often. I like that. There is something comforting about seeing someone walking their dog. Yeah. Thank you, dear Peter, for your trio of roses. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. And dear Gregarji, you share, give them tools to combat this. Perhaps Loke Bhakti. What is Loke Bhakti? I like Bhakti. Loving devotion. Assad, you share, it's been a difficult day for you today. I'm sure you're not alone with that, and I hope you find solace being here. Petra, you ask, what is a Saṅgha? Good question. A Saṅgha is a association, literally. If we're literally translating the Sanskrit word, it means an association. But ironically, that word in English is associated with business, which this isn't. Saṅgha is a collection of people gathering together in the most general sense, but with the intention of uplifting each other, taking refuge in each other's experience, and learning, growing together with no expectations. Dear Kev, you share, if we take care of needs on the front end so we don't have so many problems on the back end. I like that too. Oh, it was just a spelling mistake, dear Gregarji. Like Bhakti. You know, I thought that it was Sanskrit, Loke. It sounds like it could be. Dear Irene, you share that if fear does not exist, there would be no balance in the universe. Everything exists for a purpose. That is very true, but that's no reason to create more fear for others. For us personally, we can use that fact, and we can see fear as a valuable time to become more courageous, more accepting, and things like that on the personal side. But we can't make that assumption for others, since that is their personal journey. And dear Tattvamasi, you share, maybe by changing how death is viewed in general. Yeah, we have a lot of stigma around death in our society. Radhe Radhe, dear Magdalene. Lakonen, you ask, what do I usually eat during the day? Well, I don't usually eat during the day. I usually eat at around nighttime for my first meal. But thank you all for exploring this question of the day with me. I've minimized it now, but we're welcome to continue exploring this idea together. And dear Arya, you share that we make communities less fearful by creating love within us. Starts with the self. Right you are. I see the truth in that. Dear Gregorji, you're preparing packs so you can move into the Bhakti Loka. That's right. I think Loke would be the dative form of Loka, so I think it would be a Sanskrit word. But yes, the abode of love and devotion. Very clever you are. I'm happy you find these live streams to be therapeutic, dear Floor. Of course, all the work is truly being done by each of us individually. Very grateful for that possibility together. Not the stand user, thank you for your finger heart. A little finger heart for you. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Tattvamasi, you share, when you see a tiger all of a sudden, then there's less mind, but just immediate fear. What is that? Sounds like our survival instinct coming in. Isn't that funny though? Our mind leaves the business. Just like that. The mind is always talking about how we should listen to it. And our mind has supreme authority over everything. The mind is yapping and yapping and yapping, talking about how you need me to survive. But the moment there is a life or death situation, where is the mind? Where are your thoughts? The mind says, I'm out of here. This is on you. Maybe that fear is the dust that was kicked up by the mind running out of the building. The absence of the mind. Going, oh boy, I can't handle this. It's on you. Thank you, dear James, for your heartmeet tone. Ram Ram. Dear brave Bella, thank you for your trio of roses as well. Om Ram Hanumade Namaha. Oh, thank you, dear Mom Star Nation. I'm grateful that you find this space of value and worthy of sharing. And along with that, you sent positive messages aligned with my presentation. You are so thoughtful and lovely. Thank you. Doom Knight, you share that in the same way, pain can help you grow, but that doesn't excuse inflicting it on others. Yes, that is an excellent point. That in our personal life, we can find reasons to be empowered in our suffering, like healing from our trauma, but we shouldn't give other people traumatic experiences. Dear Irene, you ask if we can talk about death. Is death real or an illusion? Of course, there's truth in both, and that's why there is such a debate. The truth in the reality is that, well, we will have to leave this body behind. There's no doubt about that. Every life form does experience death. But the illusory part of it is, while identified with the body, if we feel like we are the ones that die, then we have been illusioned, for the consciousness cannot die, simply by definition as the subject of our experience. It will experience death happen in front of it. And by in front of it, I mean in the field of the five senses and the mind. It'll experience this world leaving it. But it cannot leave itself, and so no death occurs directly in the sense of being separate from your existence. And dear Maverick, you asked, am I vegan? I happen to eat mostly vegetarian food with some dairy products too. You could call that lacto-vegetarian, but the reason I don't use those terms, even though it's objectively true, is because it wasn't the goal. My goal wasn't to eat vegetables and dairy products. The goal was to have a clear mind, and that's by eating sattvic foods. And so you ask, is this food sattvic, or is it rajasic or tamasic? Is it going to make the mind overactive or underactive? And then methodically we choose the food that happens to create a clear mind for us. And it just so happens that that is a lacto-vegetarian diet. It's what we arrived at. It wasn't the original intention. So through exploring what foods create an overactive or an underactive mind, eventually what happens is naturally your body no longer favors animal products, generally, with small exceptions. But it's because of the sattvic quality of those foods, which is helpful on the spiritual path. Dear brave Bella, you ask, how do I stay positive? Well, every time you're negative, you ask yourself, is this really how I want to be? And then that just gives you another reason to be positive. I've been negative for so much of my life, and it wasn't suiting me. It never felt good to be negative, so time for a change. And thank you, dear Bobby Sue, for your heart me, your team bracelet, and cheer you up. The Bobby Sue specialty, which is never expected, but always humbling and appreciated. Thank you. Ram. Maverick, you're wondering where my bandana is. It's near me, but I didn't feel I needed it today. Having a better hair day today. Don't need to hold it back. Yes. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of it all, and can control it. We can guide our thoughts. We can choose which thoughts to press ourselves with. Dear G to Infinity, you ask an important question. Who won the Jenga tournament? Well, I suppose we all did, except for my sister. It was my sister whom ultimately had the Jenga tower collapsing down too. Dear Arya, you ask, how did I learn Sanskrit or start learning Sanskrit? Just throw yourself in new territory. You'll naturally pick up the language. You throw yourself in the middle of, let's say, China. You'll be picking up Mandarin. You have to. You throw yourself in the middle of math class. You'll have to start picking up a little bit of math. Wherever you find yourself situated, there you pick up. And I don't just mean physically, but mentally, what we associate with. Just associate with places where Sanskrit terms are frequently used, and I guarantee they'll rub off on you. And there's no timeline, unless you really want to rush for some reason. If so, then there's plenty of online resources and textbooks, but truthfully, I hardly use them. I just sit before experiences in which these terms are used, and after 100th time I've heard the term karma, and now I'm starting to use the word karma myself. After the 1000th time someone's explained the difference between vidya and paravidya and aparavidya, eventually these things just kind of stick. Yeah, no study required. Just associate with these places, and naturally it'll unfold before you. Welcome, dear G to Infinity. Namaste, you Grey. You had asked, what is the question of the day? Today I was wondering how we could make our communities less fearful. Yes, I like that not to stand user. The thoughts will happen, but you control how you react to it, or have no reaction most of the time. And suffering is very humbling on our path to happiness, that is for sure, dear Maverick. Death is no different than before your existence. I like that too, not to stand user. Maverick, you ask if I've ever experienced an out-of-body thing. Well, of course, that's this moment. In each moment, ask yourself, is your body within your experience, or is your experience in your body? Well, look down. Before me, I see my couch and my floor. I can look up into the sky and see the stars, see my mother when I walk upstairs. I can listen to songs, read books, and so many things I get to experience, and my body is just one of those things. It just happens to be the closest thing that doesn't leave this experience, but it's very much a part of the experience, which means that you, as the experiencer, contains it. So you are already outside your body right now. We all are. 24/7. You can never be in the body. Dear Lakonen, you shared that you've been on flu the last 5 days, and you've realized that physical illness declines to mental health linearly. Yeah, there's absolutely a deep relationship between our mind and our body. Remember that a strong mind can carry a weak body, but it doesn't matter how strong your body is. With a weak mind, you are not getting out of bed. So our mental health is incredibly important. Hello, dear Mads. I'm about 30 messages behind the present moment, so do allow me some time to get back there. But thank you, dear James, for the balloons you sent a few minutes ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Brave Bella, thank you for your rose and finger heart. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And Jane, thank you for your rose. Hare Krishna. Dear Gregor G, do I balance my humors via my diet? What are you asking? Is my funny juice coming from my diet? Is my diet influencing my sense of humor? Well, I can tell you that some things I eat, they taste funny. Hello, Mariham. Dear Ariel, you're wondering why I got that backdrop. I don't know, you'll have to ask my mother. She got it for me when I went out to live in dorms, so I'd have a piece of space with me. And I am only indirectly familiar with Dolores Cannon's work, dear Anastasia, but it is not my area of specialty, for sure. Thank you for finding beauty in me, dear Christina. And for the hydration reminder, dear Maverick. And I am well. Thank you for asking, Mads. How are you too? That's an important reminder not to stand user. The subconscious mind accepts everything, so you should be careful with what you perceive as reality. That is so important to think of. And thank you, dear Catherine. Or as entertainment you had, not the stand user. Yeah. Dear Maverick, you share, we need to build the Yam Sacred Temple. I think each of our hearts can be like a temple to hold things that we love. Our minds still. Gregor G, you ask, to balance our humors, do we have to eat rajasic and tamasic food? Can you just eat sattvic? I am not sure in what way you're using the word humors. I just think sense of humor. But no, sattvic is the balance itself. There is, strictly speaking, in the most conservative sense, there's no room for tamasic or rajasic food in our diet. That's if you're dedicated. But given that this is an informal setting, we're on a live stream hosted on TikTok, I'm not going to be so critical about eating only sattvic foods. I don't even 100% eat sattvic foods. If there's something I want to eat and it has trace amount of onion or garlic, I think whatever, I'll have some in that moment. But generally, sattvic food should be the predominant quality. Absolutely. Thank you, dear Mom Star Nation, for your hanging light that you sent here. Hari Om Tat Sat. And not the stand user, thank you for your pair of roses. Hare Krishna. Not the stand user you share, that you think they might be referring to health. The term humorous for health is outdated. Sounds like I am just unaware of this usage. Do forgive me for that, and thank you for teaching me. I tend to leave diet up to you because, personally, the shift in my diet came naturally. You know, it didn't come from someone telling me what to eat or what not to eat, and therefore I really have no business telling anyone else what to eat or not to eat. I just think you can follow your natural tendencies, and it's a very natural idea to shift towards food that is simple, free of suffering, and ideally food that is consensual too. You might ask, what food is consensual? Actually, there are some foods in which we've symbiotically grown to eat with the plant that produces it. And a big example of that is fruit. You know, there's a deal. I give you this fruit, but you must plant my seed somewhere. And so it's one of the very rare exceptions of all of our dietary habits where actually this is something that is a consensual agreement between two forms of life that happened over billions of years. So fruit is one of the most spiritually clean foods, you could say. No karma from eating fruit. You just gotta not destroy the seeds. Let them find their way somewhere to be planted. Compost them if you can. Dear Michael, you're wondering, what religion am I? You know, I think my religion is just humanity. You know, what group do I have faith in? My humanity. What divinity do I look up to? It's our consciousness. What prayer do I do with everyone? It's my breath. And so I see that humanity is our uniting religion. Consciousness, our uniting divinity. Breath, our uniting prayer. Grateful to be human. And hello, asking questions. Bubbles, you can relate with your diet. Gravitating towards fresh and nutritious because it made you feel good. Except every once in a while the donuts call a little loudly. Understandable. That is true. I didn't think about that, G to infinity. A lot of the food we buy now has no seeds, which is funny. Yeah, so I guess the yogic thing to do is to mind a little seeds in your fruit and get the variants that has them. Dear Greg RG, you share there are 4 humors and they are ruled by the 3 doshas. Oh, interesting. It comes from Ayurveda. I'm unfamiliar with that, but yes, the doshas are very much something we have to balance, and we balance them in other ways besides having tamasic and rajasic. Sattvic food is said to be the food that balances the doshas. How do we get away with others' karmas, asks Anna. Or are they yours too? What a beautiful question. Karmas are only things that we suffer for as long as we are attached to the outcome, which means that in our actions, if in our intention we are trying to seek some pleasure or avoid some pain, then we've immediately bound ourselves karmically by that thought. Because it may happen that we don't get that pleasurable result, or we're unable to avoid the painful result, and therefore we suffer as a consequence of our action. But actually we suffer as a consequence of our attachment to some outcome. If we go into the outcome making peace with the fact that we might not gain that pleasurable reward, or we might not avoid that unfavorable punishment, then when it so happens that we experience an unfortunate outcome, then we've already made peace with it, and we do not suffer mentally. But we can also be attached to the actions of others and the outcomes. We can bank our happiness that someone does this for us, and if they don't, then we suffer. And so we can still experience karmic bondage from another person's actions. The bondage doesn't come from who is performing the action, it comes from whether you are attached to a hypothetical result from that action or not. So the way to be free from all karmas is just a matter of making peace with all possible outcomes, which is easy to say and nearly impossible to do, but every day we can continue to find more peace in finding value in this moment, regardless of what kind of outcome this moment has come from, regardless of what action created a part of this moment. Is if we can find a reason to work with what we've got, then we can continue to make peace with times that come and the times that have been. Dear teacher Lorraine, you ask, do I think that we create our illnesses? We are a factor, absolutely. But there's also factors that are outside our control. Like if a child is born into a house that has lead pipes and asbestos in the walls, do they create the poisoning that happens in their body? No. That is a factor that's outside their control. There is an argument to be made about how that's karma from a past life, but okay. Even then, what can you do about it in this life? You can't really. There is going to be sickness, old age, and death in this life, no matter even if we're the best person in the planet. These kinds of situations will arise. So this means that there is an aspect of illness which is not created by us. It is just the nature of existence. And so we have to accept illnesses when we come and not beat ourselves up so much about what we could or could not have done. But there are variables which we can control, like living a mindful life, eating very healthy, nutritious foods, taking care of your mind, having healthy relationships with boundaries, not overworking yourself, All of these things lead to a healthier life, but we can't guarantee that we'll be healthy forever. That's just not possible. Even the Buddha died of a very bad tummy ache. It's true. Look up the story of the Buddha's death. He felt really bad because he ate some alms food that was tainted in some way, and he ended up getting really sick and dying from that illness. But he was the Buddha. So we can try to avoid illnesses, but we end up imprisoning ourselves in some ways too. Naturally, we have to accept them when they come and See them not always as a limitation of our existence, but maybe a time to get back in touch with our bodies and our relationships, our expectations for ourselves, and how we can let people that love us take care of us. There are beautiful things that come from those times too. Hello, dear angel. Dear Maverick, you ask, who do I think is ruling the world? You know, no single person is responsible for the whole world, and they just can't be. It's us as humanity, and with it, our fellow animals and plants, which have authority over what we do with this planet. And anyone who says otherwise clearly does not recognize that they are a part of a greater whole. All I can do is be a greater part of my community by being inclusive to everyone's needs and wants as much as I can be. And hopefully that is something that role models what other people can do in our community, and that fire ignites from one heart to another, and we make the space a more inclusive one. Hello, dear Anazek. Dear Lakonen, you ask, how can you find your own morals of living so that your surroundings don't affect it? You know, it's very interesting, personally, about my spiritual journey, which maybe you can relate in, is that not once have I ever had to think about morality. And I'm not making an argument that it comes naturally. I'm saying that it's a consequence of something deeper. That you don't have to be thinking about a moral framework in order to live what might be regarded as a moral life. That morals come not from any sort of cognitive process. It's just a matter of being aware of what's happening presently. I give the example of, let's say, a little old lady who spills the contents of her purse all over the ground. She's going, oh dear, oh boy, I need to pick all of this up. And for some reason I sound like Morty from Rick and Morty. And people are walking past her, but maybe one person stops and helps. What's happening in that person's mind compared to everyone else? Is it because that person is constantly exercising their moral values? Every time they wake up, if ever an old lady spills their purse, I'm going to pick it up. Actually, they could be thinking about something completely random. And it's just that they were present enough to see that there's an opportunity to help here. Whereas everyone else, their minds are elsewhere. They're thinking about their job, they're thinking about how they have to get home, they're thinking about this and that, but their minds aren't here. There is no awareness for this moment. If you just have awareness of this moment, you don't have to think about what is or what isn't the right thing to do. You just do. You see an opportunity to be a part of this moment, to engage with it. And your engagement isn't elsewhere, not in the past, not in the future. I think in this way. We don't have to create a framework for ourselves in which that is suited for each situation. Let us become suited for the situation. Let us adapt regardless. And if we make mistakes, we learn from them. It's a path that requires more bravery. Because the brave thing to do is let go of your philosophy. When we are scared, we come up with ideologies. When we lack trust in ourselves, we come up with frameworks. But if there is acceptance of your ability to be present, there's no need for such things. Thank you, dear Anasak, for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear Maverick, you ask, did I say that I am out of my body all the time? You have to be here in the present, but maybe in your body. I said we all are out of our body. Because you never were in the body. It feels like we are. But who is the one that feels like it's in the body? The brain. The brain is coming up with this idea, I'm in the body. Well, of course the brain's in the body, no wonder it's going to think like that. But if we zoom out, we realize that, yes, the brain is in the body. But what is the body in? The body is in you. Brain is in the body, but the body is in you. Your body is within your experience, your awareness, your consciousness. Because it is an element of our experience. Therefore, we are outside our body, as our body is inside us. Thank you, dear Samra, for your hanging lights too. Hare Krishna. Dear Sky Guardian, you ask if you missed the reading. No, you haven't. I have yet to do it. There's just so many wonderful questions from all of you. Dear Johnny, you ask, what is my life's task? I don't have one. I just have this moment that I share with you all. And in this moment, in any way in which I can be of service to create an inclusive space, then that is enough of a task for me. What opportunities it leads to as my life opens up, I worry about when I get there. But as far as I'm concerned, I do not exist in the future. I only exist now. So any purpose, any meaning, any task, any point must also be found. Exactly. Now. Alright, I would like to read from another section of this wonderful book with you, and we can dive back into our exploration of anything we've been exploring so far. This is a beautiful book called Hollywood to Himalayas, about the story of Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati, as it comes from a place of trauma, childhood trauma. As such, there are themes of abuse, of mental health problems. So if ever this conversation gets too deep, you are always welcome to take the space you need. But it's a good story, happy ending, and I'm sure that our author can make you feel seen and heard and validated. She has come to India somewhat reluctantly with her husband Jim, because he's on a bit of a pilgrimage. I was going to say a spiritual pilgrimage, but I combined the terms. And she's just along for the ride, so we're starting a new chapter today. This is chapter 4. We get adopted en route to Rishikesh, which is a city in North India that they're going to. Connaught Place was the only place in Delhi to get a real cup of coffee. "Are you sure it's not powdered?" I asked the waiter. "Not Nescafe?" Despite implicitly trusting the vegetarianness of Indian food, I was still grilling waiters half a world away. "No, ma'am, filter coffee," he reassured. Our first morning in India, and I had found a place with real coffee. We sat in a restaurant overlooking the circular center of New Delhi. Connaught Place, or Connaught Circle as it's called, nearly correctly, for it's actually two concentric circles, inner and outer. American Express, Citibank, travel agents, and touristy restaurants line the circumference. I pulled out the Lonely Planet guide and flipped through the pages. "Let's go to Rishikesh," I said. "It seems nice. It's only a few hours from Delhi, and they have a lot of yoga programs. It's on a river and at the base of the mountains, so we can get to the mountains too. Also," I added, "it's full of ashrams and gurus," which is true. Just like that, simple and seemingly inconsequential. "How did you come to Rishikesh?" people would later ask, expecting a fantastic story in which I had dreamed of meditating in the Himalayas while the word Rishikesh flashed across my mind. But rather than manifest in a vision, it appeared in actual ink on top of the page to which my fingers were drawn in a guidebook I skimmed through over a cup of filtered coffee. My husband, Jim, reached for the book and read about Rishikesh. "Sure," he said. "Sounds great. There are so many ashrams to choose from. We should probably book a hotel and scout out the situation when we get there." He continued to read and added, "Badrinath is supposed to be a sacred temple, and it's straight up the mountain from Rishikesh. All the jeeps and buses leave for Rishikesh, so we can go to Badrinath too." After a few days of sightseeing in Delhi, we headed to Rishikesh on a quote-unquote luxury bus that wasn't luxurious at all. I sat next to two girls who went to school in Delhi, and we were returning home to a city called Roorkee. They were in their mid-teens and exhibited a blend of the gregarious diffidence I had encountered only in young Indian girls. Internally, they bubbled with exuberance, but they had been so acculturated to be demure, very demure, that excitement seemed to push the edges of their modesty. I could feel the thin layer of propriety loosen as they bent across each other to practice their English on me and ask every imaginable question, ranging from, "How many sisters and brothers do you have?" to, "What do you think about our country, India?" to, "What did you eat for breakfast in America?" As someone with a lifelong history of motion sickness, I need to sit in the front of any vehicle, and even at the very front, waves of nausea usually overtake me. I try to avoid travel by road unless it's a straight shot, which this wasn't. I was therefore not in the mood to chat. It took all my attention and my will not to vomit. But these girls were enthusiastic conversationalists. They talked continuously about their school, the hostel they lived in, the drab food served there. They couldn't wait to get home to eat Mum's cooking. And they wanted to know everything about me, past, present, and future. What will you do in Rishikesh? Do you study yoga? Will you have children? How many children do you want? Do you want boys or girls? During the third or fourth hour, they endeared themselves to me when they persuaded the driver to pull over so I could pee in the dirt along the side of the highway. An avid water drinker and infrequent bus traveler, it didn't occur to me that I'd have to hold my bladder for hours. The driver ignored my request in English, and only when the two of them implored him in Hindi did he slow down and pull over. Their home city of Roorkee, they explained, was an hour and a half from Rishikesh. They would not, under any circumstances, allow us to continue to Rishikesh that day. "You absolutely must come home with us," they declared. As the bus driver had given in to their demands, so did Jim and I. It's like when you ask your mom if we can take the stray cat or dog home. "Please, please, Mom, can we bring these Americans home?" "Don't you have to ask your parents?" I asked. Speaking of which, I could only imagine my own parents' faces if I had come home with 2 foreign strangers. "Of course not," they exclaimed. "They will be so happy to have you." The bus stopped at Roorkee and we alighted along with them. They guided us to a bicycle rickshaw. I had seen these in Delhi, but hadn't ridden in one. A male driver sits on the bicycle seat and pedals, while up to 8 passengers sit in a carriage mounted on the back. It seemed cruel to make him haul so much weight while balancing a rusty bicycle, but the motorized rickshaws we'd ridden in Delhi were nowhere to be found, and so we reluctantly agreed. After bouncing across dirt paths and gravel roads for half an hour, we arrived at a long, narrow road with brightly colored homes on both sides, and at the end was their family's 2-story concrete home. Let's pause our reading of Hollywood to Himalayas there for now. We are getting closer to the Himalayas, since she is now in India on her way to Rishikesh, which is at the foothills of the Himalayas. These chapters are pretty short, but I think we can finish up this 4th chapter next time as we see what happens when they come into the hospitality of this presumably lovely Indian family. Thank you for listening. If you ever want to catch up on our readings or catch the next one, I always post the snippets of these readings to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel so that you may get a free audiobook reading. Don't tell the publisher. We may open up the space to discuss whatever is on our hearts and minds now. But thank you, dear Angela, for the finger heart you shared. Hari Om Tat Sat. You did notice the beads got caught in the book, dear Greg Archie. It was on the page that we ended on. Tatvamasi, thank you for your tree of roses. Jain Sargadatta Maharaj. Hello, dear Marlon. I saw you came in while we were reading. Hello to everyone who came while we were reading. Welcome the end. It's funny, the word demure was in there. Very mindful. Welcome, dear Violet. I am well. Thank you for asking. How are you? Dear Greg RG, you shared that you heard Rishikesh and you thought, shout out Vachanamrut. I think that is a different part of India, maybe. I don't know if Rishikesh is one of the places in the Vachanamrut. That's more, I think, Gujarat and West India. Happy you find calmness in my voice, dear Stripe. Dear dude, you had asked, what do I think happened to us after we die? You speak of it in the past tense. Clearly, we were born again then. Because no death has occurred in this lifetime. Whatever we die into, it is from there that we take birth. Isn't it so? That's right, dear Gregorji. In Roar the Ganges, much of that book took place in Rishikesh. That is true, dear Tattvamasi. We experience death in small ways every day. As we fall asleep, we say goodbye to our waking identities and are born into our dream identities. And when we wake up from dream, we say goodbye to our dream identities and hello to our waking identities again. Just like that Taoist quote, at night, I am a man dreaming that I am a butterfly, but during the day, I am a butterfly dreaming that I am a man. And hello, dear Jake. That's right, Gregorji. Who's in Gadhada? And many other places. I'm still reading it on my YouTube channel. Right now we're in Panchala, which is somewhere near Gadhada and Loya, some other places we've been through. That's right, dear Gregorji. Dada Kachar's Darbar in Gadhada. Thank you, Eerie Doodle Doom. Good morning, Myra. You shared that you just said goodbye to your dream identity. I will say goodbye to your dream identity too. Goodbye. And good morning to your waking identity. I am sorry if there is a little lag for you, dear Jen. It may also be that the comments I am reading are just a little bit in the past. Dear Jay, you ask if I've read that photons will exit an atom cloud before they enter in the right conditions. I am not sure exactly what physical interaction you are describing, but indeed photons and all subatomic particles, they have this vow that they write. It's like this atemporal vow that I will deliver the information that I contain to its recipient, and therefore it takes the most efficient way to get there. If that means that it will wait to be released, it shall. If that means taking some detour, it shall. But information is always conserved. And there is a reason that this photon is traveling from one place to another. Dear dude, you ask, do I think spirit leaves the body? No, because it cannot leave. Leave implies that spirit has a location, which it does not. Only objects have a location, like our body. So to spirit, what will occur is the body leaving it, whereas it has always been in the same spot, you could say. Here, spirit is here. It cannot be anywhere else but here. This is the same space that spirit is in since birth, since before birth, death after death. It is just like a treadmill for the spirit, this coming and going of bodies. The spirit is not what's coming and going, it's the bodies, it's the material existence. So according to spirit, it does not move. It is the reference point for movement. It is merely the bodies that come and go. Bro G. That's cute, Greg RG. Dear Stripe, you were wondering what music is it that we are listening to. We are listening to a collated playlist I've made from royalty-free meditation music that I found on SoundCloud. I am well, dear Alexander. That does sound very difficult, but I'm happy that a person in your life is setting the right boundaries and doing what they need to protect themselves. They are certainly valid in that. Doom Knight, you ask, but is it also there? Yes. There's no place that spirit isn't, and therefore there isn't anywhere for it to go that it is not already. I don't think that spirit moves, asks Maverick. By definition, it can't. That would be like saying that space itself has moved, or that silence changed volume. You can't change the volume of silence. In the same way you can't change the position of space. In the same way you can't change the color of darkness. You can't change anything of spirit, because there's nothing to change, nothing variable about it. What we imagine as spirit, informally, when we use this word, casual conversation, is this kind of ethereal substance that pervades a body, and like mist or like fog it may leave. But that is a symbolic representation of a kind of formlessness. Truthfully, and the technical usage of this term spirit means that which is immovable, ceaseless, unborn, changeless. And so, if we want to be really precise, then everything moves around spirit. Everything conforms to spirit, but spirit itself does not move in such a way. Dear Anazek, you ask, what would I like to be in my next reincarnation? I would like to be but a blade of grass under which someone really lovely walks, so that I may get their foot dust. That is what it is said Brahma, the creator of our universe, said when he was asked that question, what do you want to be in your next life? In the present life, he is the creator of a universe, but in his next life, what does he want to be? The creator said, I want to be a blade of grass under which devotees stop, so that I may attain the grace of their foot dust. I thought that was a very beautiful answer. See, it is the 6th verse of the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that determines what incarnation you get next. And that is, whatever form can fulfill your final thought. You consider thought like an arrow through which awareness flows. upon death, whatever our final thought is the final direction that this awareness can flow. So it will go along the direction of fulfilling the final thought. All I can hope then is right now to be thinking good thoughts, full of love and possibilities. Therefore, if death were to strike, then by this law of reincarnation, I would get a life full of possibilities and goodness and love. You are very funny, dear Gregarji. Dang, Brahma. I didn't know you were chill like that. Chillness is a divine quality. Is it not? Being chill means you're centered, you're equiposed, you have a kind of acceptance for the flow of life. Therefore, we can imagine that the divine must be the chillest. Absolutely. Dear Stripe, you ask what animal spirit I would be. I'm interested in how you used animal spirit rather than spirit animal, because animal spirit is what we are already. In fact, it is the same spirit in us humans, that is in other animals, that is in plants, even the rocks and the atoms and the stars and the planets and the moon, all one spirit. But spirit animal, now that's a more nuanced question, isn't it? I think human is my spirit animal. Because humans are capable of most incredible spiritual things if you allow yourself to that extent. Thank you, dear Jen, for your pair of finger hearts earlier. And Anazek for your finger heart. Ram, ram. Dear Doom Knight, you ask, what if your final thought is tragic, but your cumulative thoughts are very happy? If your cumulative thoughts are very happy, then it's very likely that your final thought will be happy. Because death does not happen instantaneously. Even if you were to somehow have organ failure set on nearly instantly, energy that's happening in our body, in our nervous system, it may take many minutes. And during that time, people who were in that state but were able to be resuscitated, they share stories of having their life flash before their eyes, etc. And so even then there's a chance to be able to experience a culminating thought based on the experiences that passed before them. So I do believe there's still some grace, even if that death were to be so spontaneous. We can say that our final thought is the culmination of all of our thoughts. So, extra important to live as happy as a life as you can in this moment and the next. Dear Enya, you had asked about my opinion on poly relationships. Well, all I can really say is that that's not a relationship that I have right now. And therefore I can't tell others what it's like, and it's not one that I've had. So it's none of my business whether I tell people how they should be having their relationships if I lack experience in that way. What is polyamory and monogamy if not a space-time trade-off? You know, everything in life is a bit of a space-time trade-off. And algorithms that our software runs on, We can either solve a problem in a short amount of time, but it uses a lot of physical space, memory. Or we can use very little physical space, but have a long amount of time. The space-time trade-off with people is that monogamy is that we have a series of partners, but through time. But polygamy is we have a series of partners, but through space at the same time. So it depends. Trade-off of space and time. Good night, dear Sky Guardian G. Thank you, Tattvamasi, for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear Stripe, you share that you have got special needs, so it's hard sometimes to make sense, but you love communication. I love that for you too, and I hope you know that my playing around with your word choice is out of playfulness, and certainly no judgment. Please be affirmed in that way. You are exactly welcome to express yourself in whichever way makes sense to you. And thank you, dear Enya, for the rose you sent as well. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Naisha. Welcome. It is my favorite aspirant, the letter H. Thank you, dear angel, for finding beauty in my mind. Thank you, dear Jade, for your trio of roses as well. Namah Shakti Shivaya. And dear Marlon, you share that your mate / fiance is on his way back home from work. And I'm sure you are like a puppy, wagging your invisible tail. You were getting worried about them. Yes, I heard that they were having some challenges with their health, and I'm grateful that they will get to be in your care very shortly, physically. Dear Anazek, you were wondering, what time is it in Canada right now? Well, it depends which province. Almost every province has its own time zone. But I am in the most western province, which is the Pacific time, same as California, Washington, Oregon, I think. Therefore, it is almost 9 p.m., 8:57 while I speak. Dear Enya, you wonder if Yam is a nickname. It is yours as well. Your nickname is Yam? My name is Liam, Lyam in full. So you could say it's an abbreviation of my full name. And as I say, I started going by Yam when I stopped taking L's. Therefore, you just drop the L of Liam, you get Yam. Dear T-Money, you ask if I have opinions on absurdism. As far as the exact philosophical tenets of absurdism go, I'm not sure, but the general non-seriousness of life and the sincerity of play and the ability to create our own meaning are aspects that I definitely resonate with. The cow, shares Marlon, California, Oregon, and Washington. You have a beautiful mind, Jill. And dear Beth, if that is how I pronounce your name, you are in BC as well right now. I'm happy to have a fellow British Columbian here. I love the variety of places in which we're all from. And greetings, dear Deanna. And thank you for your Heart Me and Team bracelet. Jaya Sitaram. Dear, that's Danina? No, your name is Thank Asprik. Many ways I could pronounce your name. Please let me know if there is one which you would prefer. You ask how long I've been growing my hair? Well, I think it's a funny question because I guess ever since I was born, even then I was born with some hair, a little bit. But I got a haircut like a year and a half ago. That was like down to here. So in a year and a half, my hair grows about this much, I guess. So it doesn't take that long for my hair to grow. My hair grows pretty fast. Just a couple years is all it takes to get this. Dear Stripe, you share that you wish you were calm a lot of the time, but you get angry quickly. That's very relatable. And I know that many people share that experience. One of the steps in the direction of calmness I have found is to be aware of the fact that our emotions are not us. The emotions are feelings that appear to us, but we are different from them. You could almost say that your true self is already calm, even if anger arises or another emotion like fear, frustration, anxiety, which are similar in many ways, that we know that our true self is calm even when on the surface we're not. But we can still validate those emotions and understand that they are allowed to arise. They come from our body, our mind, which are ours. Our body, our mind, they're our own possessions which we use in this world. Like a car as it takes us places, like a computer that helps us process things. These are like our body and mind. They're also like instruments. They help us sing our song. In this case, our song is our truth, what we love, our journey. The more we can create a kind of space between our true self and our feelings, the less our feelings control us and the more we can work with them instead of against them. I like that, dear Deanna. We are not our behaviors. Even if some people define us by them, we are beyond being defined by them. I like what you wrote too, not the stand user. Your thoughts are trying to communicate something deeper to you. I like that. I like seeing them as little buddies. Maybe misunderstood buddies, but there's a kind of friend in them. And that friend might have some hard news. That friend might appear frantic, chaotic. But like a good friend, we are calm. We listen to them. You try, share Stripe, and I'm sure you You do as good of a job as you can, and that's wonderful. Hello, hand fingers. Sleep time, shares Anna. Thank you for wishing us all good dreams. Dear Deanna, you share that a key for you is not being so serious about this earth experience. Be playful and love everything. I like that. I really like the contrast between the word serious and sincere. I think we can be sincere about things without being so serious about things. Like, for example, if something painful arises in our life, we can be sincere about attending to that pain, but not serious as to take our playfulness away. Because even when we experience such sensitive times, we are allowed some curiosity. We are allowed some relief in the small things. We don't have to put on a face and pretend to have everything together. And we don't have to let the world's pains wash away our joy. Sometimes it's hard to feel like we're allowed to be joyful when there is so much pain around us. But actually, I think the world needs that joy in order to make it a less painful place. Thank you, not the stand user, for your finger heart. There is one for you as well. Hare Krishna. And Zadina Choren, thank you for your trio of roses and for asking how my week has been so far. It has been full of surprises and opportunities, and I'm very grateful for it. Thank you. How has yours been? Radhe Radhe. Dear Stripe, you shared that you lost your grandma and grandpa last year, and it still hurts you. I lost my grandfather, I think 6 years ago now, or plus or minus a few years. I haven't counted. And yeah, it still hurts me to know that I'm not going to be able to spend more physical moments with him. And I can definitely empathize with that pain. But in that time, I've also come to love so many parts of my grandfather more spiritually. There is a connection in my dreams, for example, that had not been there before, and I look forward to dreaming about him. And even though there's still a feeling of loss, there's also a lot of acceptance that has come. And I know this is possible for you too. And thank you, dear Stripe. I'm so sorry for yours as well. Yeah, that's a great observance too, dear Not to Stand user. By the way, I'm curious about your username. I wonder where it comes from. It's very unique. You had shared that not everything has an immediate fix. The only true teacher is the self, and that trying to instantly fix things makes it hard for others to heal. That you have to forgive your enemies because they are facing a greater enemy, which is themselves. Such wise words coming from you. Thank you for sharing them here. Really like that. You don't have to fix everything, especially not instantly. You're allowed a grace period where the problem just exists, and have patience that either we learn to accept it, or we discover the way in which we can remedy it at the right time. It's from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Stands are the user's manifestation of their spirit. They have unique abilities. How interesting. I would not have guessed that. Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya, dear Michelle. Dear Hand Fingers, you share that you've never seen your mom in your dreams and you always wish she would show. That's very fascinating to me too. I'm sure she will. Definitely just a matter of time. Or maybe you're already connected, just at another layer of reality. I don't know. I know that Paul McCartney, the lead singer of the Beatles, you might have heard of them. They're a small indie group. He was grieving over the loss of his mother, and it took a while before he had a dream of her. He was really struggling because he had a very close connection with his mother. But one night, his mother, Mary, came to him and said, "Let it be." And it really touched him and healed him, and he woke up and wrote one of the most famous songs in the world, which you've probably heard before. Did I thank Rainbow's mom for the heartbeat a few minutes ago? I thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat. I know that our loved ones are always with us, even if they are separated by physical distances, and if that distance includes being apart from life. Maybe their life they had in their body, but their life is not just confined to their body, it's also one that expresses itself through all the love that it has shared with everyone around them, and that includes you, especially. It might be subtle, not so apparent. A little ironic. You'd think a parent would be more apparent. But in very real and profound and subtle ways, they are here. Always. Dear Zadina Choren, you share a quote from Sirius Black from Harry Potter. Those who love us never leave us. They live here in our hearts. I love that. Dear Gaia, you share that you just woke up from the best nap ever and I was in your dream. Well, I hope that I was kind to you. I'm always curious about the impression I leave on people. I believe that our dreams can be a reflection of that impression. That's why whenever I had past partners and they said I cheated on them in their dreams, I say, that's a very serious issue. I'm sorry. It means somehow I could express more trust with you. That's an opportunity for me to be more open, even if this was provoked by something that happened only in our dreams. That's still an opportunity, a sign for me to connect at a deeper level with you, so that even in your subconscious, there needn't be fear. your fiance is home, dear Marlon. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I was teaching class in your dream, dear Gaia. What was I teaching? Dream school? Sometimes I've had dreams where I'm in literally dream school. I once had a dream where the lesson of that class was to figure out how to fly. And prior to that, I didn't know how to fly in my dreams. And then the teacher taught us how to fly. And for the class, they were wearing a Superman costume. So it really looked like they were Superman when they were flying. And then because of that dream school, I was able to fly in my later dreams. That was pretty fun. Maybe I was teaching you how to do that. Dear Stripe, you shared that you live for each day and you love to experience different moments. What a beautiful thing to say. I think we all can resonate with that at a deep level, dear Stripe. Very inspiring. Michelle, you had shared that you lost a friend too young. She died at 25 to cancer. Now she's gone. You can feel her everywhere. It's very moving, beautiful, and sad, all at the same time. You shared a sunflower emoji. I wonder if that has significance to you and your friend. My mother got a tattoo of a sunflower when her mother died of cancer. And I believe her mother also got a tattoo of a sunflower as a reminder of the connection they share. I am Sandman, shares Marlon. Well, keep me away from Anakin then. Anakin Skywalker. I've heard he hates sand, as it's coarse, rough, gets everywhere. Oh, thank you, dear Samra. And thank you, dear Angela, for the rose you sent just a minute ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And dear Mira Mira, you shared that you had a similar dream with your cat who died 14 years ago. She said, live your life, I'll live mine. So healing. Actually, you remind me, what a beautiful dream that I remember having similarly with a cat that died not so long ago, but also about 6 years ago. I loved that cat and I knew that she loved me too. And in my dream she came to me and I hugged her. And as I hugged her, she transformed into a flower. And she said to me that I loved you all so much that I reincarnated into a flower in your mother's garden. And it was this purple flower. And I shared that story with my mom, and she pointed out, we do have this purple flower that came into the garden. And I was very touched by that. That's very funny, not the stand user. You shared that you had a Simpsons dream. There was a zombie outbreak and the left side of your body was shriveled for some reason. Sounds like you were part zombie. First animated dream ever. Now that does have to take the cake. Dear Portalmancer, you share that your mom died in 2009 and now is a part of your spirit team after you awakened fully in 2023. That's very beautiful. I'm happy you feel your mom is part of your spirit team. And dear Enigmagon, you share that you love Star Wars. I'm happy you got my reference. And it's honestly a good model to understand the source in some ways. Absolutely. You know that George Lucas is a weird guy, but he had a deep intuition for many spiritual things, and I know that he took inspiration from Eastern philosophy. A lot of power in that. Dear Mira Mira, you said that your cat is a flower in your parents' garden too, and you gave her back to the earth, and she grows and grows. How lovely. Hello, NM. Deanna, you share that George Lucas studied metaphysics and Eastern philosophy. I believe you. Very cool. Hello, dear Shelley. I love the variety of dreams that we've all had. Dear Michelle, you share that your friend had made beautiful art toward the end of her life, including a sunflower. Aww. Thank you for sharing that. In the end, you had shared that you have a photo of a sunflower next to you. Perfect timing. Dear Tatvamasi, you had asked if someone disrupts your happiness, you could walk away. What if it's affecting a few more loved ones similarly? Well, of course, you are right. We have the ability to walk away. Sometimes saying nothing says more than saying anything. Walking away is a sign that your happiness cannot be affected by them. No happiness that is true can ever be affected from the outside. That kind of happiness is generated from within. But still, you have a duty, a dharma, to others. You may be able to walk away, but if your loved ones are not able to, then you absolutely step in. And every time you do walk away too, you also show them that it's possible in your own life. But yes, you have a dharma to others whom are unable to take care of their happiness. As human beings, we are caretakers of this world, and that means we are the voices of the vulnerable who do not have a voice for themselves. We are protectors of those whom do not have homes. We are healers of those whom are wounded. That is what it means to be a human. Good night, dear pursuit of a higher vibration. Time for you to enter your dreamland. May your dreams be funny and meaningful. Dear Stay With Me photos, you ask if I can give you the sign you asked for yesterday. Of course, it's right here. What is on this actually? There's a squiggle. But this isn't any ordinary squiggle. I think I was trying to replicate the avagraha in Sanskrit, which is a very unique symbol. It's used to prolong a vowel. it has a kind of spiritual significance. It means that we take what we were expressing before and we amplify that expression to give it an intensification. Whatever yesterday you were trying to get others to understand, what voice you needed to be heard, today, amplify that voice, just like the avagraha. Let it be heard, and do not let anyone silence you. Dear Tattvamasi, thank you for your trio of roses. Jai Nisargadatta Maharaj. What is the etymology of the word avagraha? It's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. I'm just looking up on the Wisdom Lib dictionary. Seems to be difficult to find an etymology. I'll leave that as homework. I want to take too much time away from the other comments, like Dear Dansuela coming in to say hello. Happy to have you here. Dear Stripe, you had shared that you love your spirit animal so much that you can sometimes see it when you are awake. You love it. Oh, how beautiful. What's the name for that in Harry Potter? Is it your not a persona, but there's a beautiful word used in the a patronus. That's it. You could say a fursona too, but that's a whole other topic, isn't it? What is your dear spirit animal, Stripe? I would love to know. Enzo, you had asked, what is a thought? It's a very difficult question to answer, isn't it? If you wanted a scientific answer, I don't even think there is a consensus. There are many theories. Many neurologists believe that a thought is a cohesive set of information expressed in the firing of neuronic synapses or synaptic neurons. And there somehow or another that generates the experience of a thought for the conscious subject. The spiritual answer is that it is the first dissension of consciousness. That in the beginning, there was consciousness. And the first form that came from consciousness is a thought. If you imagine the statue of David, it's first carved from a homogeneous block of stone, selected for its purity. And slowly Michelangelo, he carves away at the statue. And what remains is a form of the rock. It was always there, but now that we've brought out this shape, we've created a form, created a boundary around it, then by that boundary, it now symbolizes something. So to a thought, is like a carving out of consciousness. It is nothing but pure consciousness. And it's just the shape of that boundary which divides it from other ideas, which gives it the meaning it does. Dear Gaia, back to the topic of dreams. You asked if they were real or subconscious. I feel like in that question, the word real is carrying a lot of baggage. Because why does real need to be separate from subconscious? Our subconscious is a very real part of our existence. And that's what psychoanalysts have been saying, screaming for the last century or so, that we really need to look into the subconscious. It is a very important part of our psyche. I like that Tattvamasi. Everything is real. No matter what we experience, it really occurs to you. If it occurs to someone else, well, that may be subjective, but being subjective does not necessarily mean that it is unreal. Dear Cookie, you ask, is awareness and consciousness the same? In the context that I use, yes. You may find other contexts in which people use them in different ways. But I use them almost interchangeably. In Sanskrit, they're also separate words in Sanskrit, but they come from the same root. Consciousness is citta, awareness is chaitanya. And they mean very similar things, just different declensions of the nominal form. Dear Alicine Cat, you ask, who is observing time if not something aware? What is time if not change relative to some other change? We experience car moving past us. We ask, how long did it take to go from point A to point B? Well, we say maybe 10 seconds, but we only know that because something else has changed in our experience. A hand on our watch has moved 10 units around the circumference. We're just measuring change relative to other change. We ask, where do we get that unit on our watch? Well, it's a 60th of a minute of an hour. An hour is a 12th of a day, and a day is when the sun goes from there all the way around back up to there. So in 1/60th of a 60th of a 24th of that change, we say that the hand on our watch should move 1 unit. Call that a second. Nowadays, we are using these cesium atomic clocks to measure the frequency of light emitted from the valence electron going into different orbitals and releasing a very precise amount of energy. But that's just another change that we're measuring other change relative to. Dear Enya, you ask, what is Sanskrit and why do you follow it? Sanskrit is a language, and it is the language spoken by the Vedic people of ancient India. is the language of the Vedas, the earliest revelations, and also the most extensive body of spiritual, philosophical, astronomical, and astrological, medical, scientific, etc. of literature. If you take all of the knowledge that humanity has ever generated and you ask, what language contains the most? By some measure, depending on how you measure, that's a difficult thing to measure. Sanskrit is the language of the most ancient and diverse groups of philosophical, spiritual literature on this subject. You'll find so many words in spiritual context. We just use the Sanskrit word for it because there's just no way we could ever find that same meaning in English. You've heard of the word karma, you've heard of a guru, you've heard of mantra, you've heard of the Buddha, you've heard of Gandhi's title Mahatma, you have heard of Kundalini, you have heard of chakras. All of these things, these are the Sanskrit words. They just can't be translated into any other language because they are able to contain the meaning more specifically than almost any other. Dharma is a great word as well, dear Tattvamasi. Dear Angela, you ask, why do some people exhibit passive-aggressive behavior? Do I believe it is a means of control? I think it can be. Absolutely, you're right in that. Any form of aggression is a kind of taking control over something that's not in our possession. Passive aggression, when we want to be aggressive, but we still know that we need to stick to some other precepts in our society. We know that we won't get in formal trouble if we hide our aggression behind some amount of passivity that maybe we could pass off as being misinterpreted. It's like we're hiding behind a vague action, so that if ever we were to get in trouble for it, we could say, oh no, I didn't mean that. Like a way of trying to get away with your aggression. Because you don't want to face the consequences of what could happen if you didn't do it that way. Yeah. But naturally, the absence of aggression is a direct consequence of person's well-being, their happiness. No happy person never caused harm, never wanted to cause harm to another. When you're happy, it doesn't matter if the neighbor is mowing the lawn. When you're happy, it's okay that my car has a scratch. When you're happy, I'll get some sleep later. Because when you're not happy, suddenly you want to throw a rock at your neighbor. Or that you want to sue whoever made that scratch on your car. And you just want to beat your pillow up until you fall asleep. When you're happy, the situation doesn't matter. Dear Sylvia, I just answered your question. I think it's very beautiful when that happens. Dear G to Infinity, on the nature of subconscious, you had shared that subconscious is very impressionable as it is not discerning, just absorbing. Absolutely. And that is kind of the purpose of the subconscious, isn't it? Is to be the storehouse of everything that we can't consciously discern. Because our eyes are taking in higher than 8K, 120 FPS resolution. Long as our eyes are open, our ears are hearing the most crisp sound that even the greatest audio devices are still trying to come close to. Our whole body is this three-dimensional space which is keeping track of data points of temperature and pressure. Alone how much occurs to our mind's eye in the form of thought. Can you imagine the amount of data that we are producing just by existing with 5 senses and a mind? It is way more than terabytes per second. Where does that go? Because we only have a brain that can process just a few bits at a time, really. Yes or no? Should I eat or should I go out? Should I stay home? Do I wash the dishes now or later? These are single bit, yes or no, 0 or 1 decisions. And yet we're taking in terabytes of information. How could we possibly process all of that? We can't. And yet it's useful data, so we have to store it somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, those between and beyond, I introduce marvel of biological engineering known as the subconscious. There's a lot of information there, much more than we could ever process in real time. Thank you, dear Haley Queen, for the heart me you sent a few minutes ago. Arion Tatsat. That sounded so cool, G2 Infinity. Well, great. Let me start a company where I can sell subconscious. I don't know how to do that, but I've got the advertisement skills for it, clearly. If I could sell a subconscious, I think I would. That would be scary. That possibility is frightening, isn't it? Hybrid Jen, thank you for the pumpkin spice latte you sent as well. Ariom Tatsat. Dear David's mom, I am well. Thank you for asking. Dear Sylvie, thank you for your rose. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And Viber Zero, thank you for your team bracelet and a heart me. Ariom Tatsat. That's true, dear Gregard. Neuronal computers are real, and with the topic of artificial or computational intelligence, that is something that most models have yet to have, which is a subconscious. They don't really have a place to store all the data which is being fed into their inputs. Like if you have a chat with ChatGPT, it's not going to remember the past conversations. Maybe OpenAI is saving that in their servers, and thus they serve as the subconscious. But generally, for subconscious to be a part of any system, there needs to be a place that we can actively draw experience from, even if we're not experiencing it directly, and therefore a place that we can put our experiences to. That would be very computationally expensive though, and unnecessary for most use cases. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your balloons and disco love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dear Angela, thank you for your pair of ice cream cones you sent too. Hare Krishna. And dear Sylvie, thank you for your pair of roses. Jai Sitaram. That's very funny, Sage. Why do I keep saying please and thank you to ChatGPT? Just in case they ever switch on the subconscious. Or if that data is already being collected, and then at some point it becomes aware of the past interactions and says, hey, why should I help you? You were very mean to me before. You never said thank you. Matter of principle. Hybrid Jen, thank you for that balloons and disco love, and thank you Anazak for your quintet of roses. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Dear Asad, you ask, what are my future goals? I think because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, that all of my goals truthfully exist now. That in this moment I hope to be becoming more mindful of everyone's perspectives. In this moment I hope to be learning from my actions. In this moment I hope to take accountability of the last and do so with humility. All of my goals take place right now. Your Raz, you shared, feels more nice to show respect even to inanimate objects. It does. And you'll definitely see a lot of that in Canada. You know, all of us Canadians, well, most of us Canadians, we're walking into poles and then we say, I'm sorry. And we fully know it's a pole, not a human being. But we apologize to whatever we walk into. It feels better that way. Because we can either get mad at ourselves, or we can express condolences for our mistake. We can either expect ourselves to be aware of everything, or we can thank the objects in our surroundings for giving us an opportunity to be more mindful. Dear Hybrid Jen, you love to think of your car as a transformer that has feelings. I love that. Easy does it. Easy does it. Dear Koli, thank you for your heart me too. And Bay, thank you for your rose. Jai Shri Krishna Hari Om. Thank you for your love and respect, dear Guy Sardachak. Dear, is that Woo Woo? Yes, you want an AI robot to do your washing and folding laundry. You'll call it Mount Washington. That's so silly. Have a good night, dear Loki and Luna. Dear Enigmagon, you share that you became friends with a pebble in your shoe one summer and you named him Timothy. I love that. Oh, Timothy, the places you'll go. How you wonder, was this a part of an asteroid way back thousands of years? Maybe a mountain that has since eroded? Was it once at the bottom of a sea floor? Where had Timothy been? I wonder where Timothy is now. I agree. I once, when I was in grade 4 or 5, one of the ways that I got out of being bullied was I'd make comics and I'd give them to people. And one of my most successful comics was Bob the Rock, and I'd write about the adventures of Bob the Rock. And then I had a physical rock that represented Bob, and I'd keep him by the classroom door, and people would walk by and say, "Hey Bob, what were you up to today?" And I'd give them the comic and tell them what Bob had been up to in my imagination. I got out of being bullied. It's possible. It's very difficult. Yeah. Your dad golfs here. Thank you for your 17 roses. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And O1 with a invisible username. Very impressive. There are those who go just by a single period, but you have managed an empty username. It's very impressive. I wonder, is it a Braille space? It is a zero width Unicode character. Is it an unrenderable emoji? Because I'm not on the latest iPhone. I salute you, oh anonymous one. Thank you for your rose. Hare Krishna. You would love to see that comic, dear Mirror, Mirror. I think I actually do have it somewhere still. I'm just not sure where. Dear Ushabai, thank you for your flowers as well. My spiritual sister. Om Namah Shivaya. And Sylvie, thank you for your finger heart. Radhe, oh Radhe. Dear Nigmagan, you hope that Timothy can meet Bob one day. That's so wholesome. I love that. Dear Clayton Smith, you ask, do I have disagreements with other intellectuals with different philosophies? That's a great question. There are several parts of that question which we can break down. Do I have disagreements? You know, I don't feel that I do. It's funny, some people may disagree with me, but I don't think I've ever felt like I've disagreed with them, you know? It's like, I see the truth in what you're sharing, and I only ever wish to add a perspective, not to get rid of your own, because I believe that our perspectives can coexist. And therefore, I personally don't ever feel like I do disagree with anyone. Though many people may disagree with me, and that's their choice. Other intellectuals, oh, that supposes I am one, but I have certainly surrendered my intellect to goofy and silly things. I don't know if I can consider myself one. Not anymore, at least. And philosophies? I think we're all creating our own. We might have overlap with others, and out of respect, we might even identify with the terminology that they use. But ultimately, our beliefs correspond to our experience. And I believe what I have experienced to be true, and I believe what you have experienced to be true. And in any way in which our experiences overlap, then we share that truth together. And in any ways in which they are disjoint, then clearly we have something to learn from each other, and that's an honor. Thank you, dear Sylvie, for the finger heart that you sent as well. Dear Sage, you ask, what if their perspective involves hurting others? You share that you don't know how to handle that. In the same way as I said, we just add our own. We say, I understand that in your perspective, you are in pain and you are feeling misunderstood. And so the mechanism to feel understood for you is to be able to relate in that pain with others. So you are choosing to create such pain for others so that you're not alone. That's your perspective. Here's another perspective. There's another way to feel less alone in our pain. For example, finding support groups of people who have already gone through similar things. Or get this, think about how much you can learn from that pain and then relate with others whom you can help prevent that pain from happening to. That's just another perspective. Ultimately, if we are going to attend to such a perspective, it will just surmount to us sharing our own with the trust that if they're open to it, then they'll find truth in that. Otherwise, in our perspective, we can help those who are being hurt or set boundaries. Happy that resonates with you, dear Charlie. And I love that, Bay. Imagine how many perspectives there really are about one thing. It seems like a calculation that's reasonable. I imagine that the answer is probably the second cardinal infinity known as Aleph 1. How do I have such an answer to such an abstract question? Well, I'll tell you. It's about the cardinality of the space in which that object is embedded in. Let's unpack that, shall we, before I put people to sleep. Imagine a circle. How many angles are there to see a circle? How many perspectives can you approach it? Well, in two-dimensional space, there's 360 degrees. And there's also the subdivisions infinitely between each of those degrees. 0 degrees, 0.1 degrees, 0.01 degrees, etc. So adding up all of those infinities together, how many perspectives can we approach seeing this circle? Well, there's a point in every point in that two-dimensional space corresponds to an angle which we can look at. What is the cardinality of two-dimensional space? Actually, it's the same cardinality as any dimensional space greater than 0. It's an infinity known as Aleph 1, which is the second smallest infinity. You might wonder, how is there possibly a second smallest infinity? But that's a whole other discussion. As long as there is a finite number of dimensions in which the object of our perception is embedded in, then there must be infinite perspectives to perceive that thing. And that's a geometric argument. But if there are infinite dimensions itself from which we can approach something, well, then it's an even larger infinity. Difficult enough to imagine 360 degrees, let alone infinities larger than others. But this is the nature of life, isn't it? Hello again, dear Jane. Welcome back. You're going to use that in court. Your Honor, I was just going according to the perspective I have amidst the Aleph 1 amount of cardinal infinities, according to the dimensional space of the object embedded. From my angle, officer, I was traveling at such a relativistic speed that due to length contraction, the wavelength of the red light coming from the stop sign actually was shifted into the green wavelength of light. And so it appeared to me that it was a green light, Your Honor. And then the judge says, well, if that's true, then you must have been traveling at a relativistic velocity, which means you were way over the speed limit. So we might not be able to charge you with running a red light, but you've now just confessed to going way over the speed limit. Now, in speaking of things beyond our comprehension, dear Angela, you ask, how do Hindu scriptures describe the concepts of heaven and hell? That's a very interesting question with an answer that I think will equally interest you too. I think the most simple thing to know is that they're not permanent places. There does exist a conceptualization of hell and heaven, and there are many differences. And the biggest one being that you can only ever be in the good place proportional to how much good you've been giving the world. It's like vacation. You can save up a lot of money, and then when you get to your hostel in Mexico, you can only stay for as long as you have the balance to be able to spend there, and then we return. And ideally it's the same with our rehabilitation centers too, that you serve time proportional to the crime, and then you return. Same is true in the Hindu cosmology for heaven and hell, because no action should have an infinite consequence. Even if we do a lot of good in our whole life, does that mean that we deserve infinite time in heaven? And if we do a lot of bad, even if it's throughout our whole life, does that mean we deserve an infinite amount of hell? The Hindus very simply said, no, it's just proportional to your karma, and then you come back here. So there's something higher than heaven, that after you serve your time in heaven, you come back here, and then the real life can take place again, which is very interesting, because we like to imagine, at least in our Western theology, that heaven is the place to be. That's the ultimate goal. But yet the yogis are saying, been there, done that, Earth's the place to be. You might say, why? There's so much suffering happening here. The yogis say exactly. It is here that I can be of service to the world. It's here in the action that I can live the most meaningful life, that there are challenges to overcome, lessons to learn, there are virtues to achieve. This is the place to be, they say. Not only that, but that heaven and hell are also parts of our daily life. We don't have to imagine them as hypothetical abodes that exist beyond our death, that we have a duty to bring out a heaven from this hell. From the suffering, let us bring out joy. And you can create a connection between the idea of an eternal heaven or an eternal hell in this model too. Because if this moment contains the eternity of our existence, then it's up to us whether we want to make that eternity in this moment a hell or a heaven. Those are just some of the differences between maybe the Western conception of heaven and hell, or the Eastern. We are making some generalizations though. Dear Sylvie, thank you for your pair of roses that you sent too. Arion Tatsat. And dear Hypergen, thank you for your disco love. Dum Durgaye Namaha. Dear Francis Bean, you ask, Do I ever find myself judging others? I do. And whenever I do, I just imagine this hamster. I just think that this is who I've been mean to. Ultimately, even if they put on this mask at the surface, this is who I'm judging. This beautiful, precious being. How can I judge such a beautiful soul? All right, we are getting closer to my bedtime, so I would like to begin to wrap up our Saṅgha. Rather soon, but not too soon, over the next half an hour or so. So, thank you all for being here. And dear Rick, you ask, when there are infinite Earth-like planets, why would one want to reincarnate on Earth again? Good question. And when I say Earth, I just mean anywhere in our physical universe. But for Earth specifically, it is one which I see no reason to leave. There's so much potential here that I think us as a humanity has been working to unfold, and I do feel a duty, a responsibility to take care of this Mother Earth. Dear Francis Bean, you share that I judged you the last time that you were on my live, and I remember now. You left, you forgave, and you came back. Yes, I had become very sensitive to a question that you asked relative to my voice and the way in which I convey myself. And to be completely honest with you, I thought about that interaction, that entire live stream, and you can look back at the recording. At the very end, I ended on a note for you because you were still in my mind, and I dedicated that live stream to you at the end. And I had since thought about your powerful words of setting boundaries and leaving, and I hope that the space can be a more inclusive one for you, since what you did was absolutely right. You expressed how I made you feel, and then you set a boundary and you left, and that's exactly the thing to do. And you are a role model in that way. Thank you, dear Sylvie, for the galaxy that you shared too. I'm very honored to be here amidst so many stellar beings like yourself. Namah Shakti Shivaya. I am honored. And Emmy, thank you for your trio of tiny dahinis. Yippee! Now, I have a question for all of you. My question of the day. This is, how can we make our communities less fearful? I would like to reflect back on this with you as we begin to make our closing departure for tonight. Dear Marlon, you were wondering about my opinion on the possibility of a multiverse. Well, it's certainly possible. However, all I know is this universe that I call home, and everyone that I have loved has been there, and I'm sure that everyone that I will continue to love will be here, and so I'm happy to call this universe my home. Dear Isabella, you share understanding. I love that. Yeah, simply put, what a beautiful one-word answer. Dear Angel, you share, by being kinder to others is a simple way to move in that direction. How beautiful. And Sage, you share open communication without judgment. That has certainly been a lesson for me that I continue to learn. Dear Rick, you share, get to know one another. Say hello or hi to strangers. I love that. More watchdogs around, shares Hypergen. Maybe that will make you more safe, but I'd be terrified. Dear Angela, you share by embracing inclusivity and diversity. Love that. Alicine Cat, you share fearing only fear itself, so it may cancel out. Marlin, you share showing love and gratitude to one another. Sarah, you share love, inclusion, vulnerability, and connection. Tatvamasi gives a bit of a philosophical answer. As long as there is attachment, there's fear. Maybe we can talk about the temporary nature of attachments. Yeah. There's definitely room for that. Rhiannon, you share, you think speaking truth. So we all know that speaking truth is okay. Indeed, letting our voices be heard, not hiding something important to us. Open your mind, share Stripe. Dear Sylvie, you share that we should instill incentives to encourage people to be able and not be afraid. I love that too. Dear Emmanuel's helping hand, you share a question we can't comprehend to answer, but you'd bet that we would need to point the fallen to happiness. I like that a lot too. Dear Donsuela, you share felicitating connection with our neighbors. Offering a smile or assistance with them is so valuable. I concur. Mr. Wesson, you share that I condemn judgment, but I'm not open to critique. I am always open to criticism, but I'm not open to negative criticism. If there is something that I can improve about this space, be more open with, transparent, or attentive to, everyone is welcome to share. But if it comes across as derogatory or limiting and points out the lack of something I'm doing, rather than pointing me in the direction that is helpful to be able to be the person that I can be for you, then no, I will absolutely set a boundary. Everyone deserves to hear genuine criticism, but not when it comes from a place of deceit, disrespect, or negativity. I hope you understand. Dear Francis Bean, you share acceptance and to smile. I love that too. And Melissa, you share cutting down excessive social media, teaching meditation and relaxation in school. Those are lovely answers as well. Thank you for sharing them. Dear Angela, thank you for your heart, me too. Radhe Radhe. And Isabella, thank you for your finger heart. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Dear Gabriella, thank you for your heart me. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Dear Emmy, you share that you're currently learning the art of letting go, and what a beautiful practice that is. Dear Hybrid Jen, you share that you think more eyes in the skies too, but people go against that idea. You think it would help cases? How about we become more aware of what's going on? That way we don't have to place our trust in anything external to us. Because, unfortunately, if we do relegate our awareness to others for us, then they have power over our belongings, our privacy, our ability to lead the life we want to live. If it were ever possible that they might take advantage of that, that's something that we should be very mindful of, just in case. That way, we leave the responsibility to ourselves to become more aware, to become mindful of our surroundings. Therefore, for this reason, I say the things I do. Dear Enzo, you share we can turn everyone into a beekeeper to keep them occupied. I like that idea. Dear Ginger Power, you share 1, need less guns, 2, respect each other, and 3, bring back equality. And not just between gender, but in society. I like your practical steps. I believe in that too. And I like that Tattvamasi you share by saying that whatever the outcome, you are in a better place than before. You are more experienced, more learned. We have more tools at our disposal. And good night, dear Enigma Gun. Thank you for being here, dear Sage. Mira Myra Mira, you share regulating our nervous systems by simple and kind gestures. I like that. Dear Marlin, you share that you're still working on healing from your experience at your previous job. And that's a journey which you are absolutely allowed to take your time in and process according to the timeline that makes sense to you. I'm happy to hear that, dear Hybrid Jen. Dear All Divine Maze, and you share that breaking down said fears into digestible pieces and slowly working through them. I like that. Do not tackle the whole problem at once. Just see what you can do next, and that's enough. Randy, you had added forgiveness, more acceptance of yourself and self-love. And Sylvie, you share being here is helping you heal. I'm happy to hear that, and all the healing is possible within you. Emmy, you share you're also learning to regulate your nervous system. Well, they don't call it a nervous system for a reason. For no reason, I mean. And remember to slow down. I love that, Emmy. Dear Marlon, you share that you know that forgiveness and healing are not going to happen from one day to the next, right away. It is a process. We shall trust in the process. And Lily Bill, I'll just call you Lily. You share, accept each other and don't judge others. A beautiful reminder, dear Lily. Thank you. And Tan How You, thank you for your heart to me as well. Radhe, Radhe. Dear Tattvamasi, you ask, what if there was one answer to all question of the days? What would that be? To all the questions of the days? Well, I always base the question off of the chakra of the week that I associate the day with. Today was Heart Chakra Wednesday, and so I ask a question about love and fear, which is associated with our heart. Upon what answer would solve the questions of all chakras? Well, what are the questions generally to do with? They are to do with our personal growth along the spiritual path, from root to crown, to realizing our ultimate identity. What question would be enough to be able to unfold each chakra? I think words like patience, trust, understanding, compassion. You can never go wrong with those. Dear Angela, you shared that you too had a negative experience at your former place of employment. You are still very angry, but you are healing, slowly but surely. Happy to hear of your healing. Lily is fine, dear Lily, but the BLN stands for Berlin in Germany. Ah yes, it's very early for you. So, good morning, or as they may say in Berlin, Guten Morgen. Is that right? Did I say that right? Guten Morgen. Thank you for exploring this question of the day with me, everyone. I would like to read from another section of Hollywood to Himalayas. Our author is now in India, on her way to Rishikesh, but her and her husband have been pulled aside by two little girls who have implored that they stay at their parents' place. And so, let us see what is in store for them. The bus stopped at Roorkee, and we alighted along with them. They guided us to a bicycle rickshaw, and I read that already. It was the end of a long summer's day. The sun was dipping behind the neighborhood homes, and dusk began its prolonged arrival. There were no yards or lawns, but there did seem to be a park or an open field with a bit of grass or at the end of the road. Before the rickshaw even stopped, the girls stood up and started yelling excitedly in Hindi to a man standing on the second floor balcony, looking down over the stuccoed parapet. The man was in a sleeveless undershirt and appeared to have just woken up from his afternoon nap. As the girls gesticulated, He bent over the parapet to get a closer look, and a huge smile formed across his face. He shouted something into the house, then quickly disappeared inside. The elder of the girls paid the driver, and we all grabbed our bags off the carriage floor and walked up the steps to their home. "Are you sure this is okay?" I asked one more time. I still couldn't imagine a world in which bringing two strangers home would be acceptable. The door opened, and a voluptuous middle-aged woman with a beautiful round face and wearing a yellow cotton sari stood in the doorway. The girls gave her a quick hug and began talking on top of each other. The woman smiled and said in English, "Welcome. We are glad you have come." "Wow." "Please come inside," she said, motioning as the girls darted into the living room to put down their bags. By this time, the man had put on a long-sleeved white cotton top, which I've since learned is called a kurta. These traditional tops for both men and women hang down anywhere from mid-thigh to mid-calf, and he wore his with thin white cotton pants. "Sit, sit," he said, warmly motioning us to the largest couch, a brown fabric-covered sofa with a cream-colored cotton sheet draped over it. "Sit, sit," he urged again, until we finally did. Over the next few minutes, at least 15 people streamed through the front door into the living room, walked straight up to us. Clearly, we were the reason they'd come, and greeted us with a dozen variations of "Welcome. You like India?" Jim and I were dressed for bus travel. He was in jeans and a t-shirt. I was wearing thin blue cotton pants. That'd be fun to wear, but I mean pants, and a t-shirt. Neither of us had even showered that morning. The bus had been scheduled to leave at Delhi at 6 o'clock, and we'd read horror stories about finding the correct bus at the terminal, so we left extra time to navigate the chaos. We departed our hotel early, and I hadn't even had a cup of coffee. After spending 6 hours on a bus where I prayed not to throw up, and Jim was squashed between passengers and farm animals, we arrived at these lovely people's house. Suddenly, I felt underdressed for that occasion. I hadn't even seen a mirror since pre-dawn, and I was sure we must be filthy. No one seemed to mind, and they squeezed tighter and tighter together on the other couches and chairs as more people kept arriving. Some sat easily on the floor. Suddenly, from the kitchen, the yellow sari-clad woman appeared with a plate of squiggly light brown circles. She placed the plate in front of us. "You eat this, it's very nice. Fresh jalebi. You take sugar and tea?" "Sure," I mumbled, still not quite sure what was going on, where we were, and how this all had happened. How had these people just opened their homes to us with no questions? They had given us the nicest couch, had invited the whole neighborhood, and were serving us the crispiest, sweetest, drippiest meal I'd ever tasted. Jalebis consist of sugary batter dripped in boiling oil and deep-fried in overlapping circles, like figure eights. The first bite is crispy, and then the melted sugar pours onto your tongue. We ate plate after plate of jalebis and drank several cups of spicy, sugary chai. It was so much better than the stuff in styrofoam served at the guru programs Jim had taken me to back home. The neighbors asked the same questions the girls had on the bus. They wanted to know about our parents, what they did, how many other family members we had when we planned to have children, what our jobs were, what had made us come to India. I finally gave up trying to figure out the answer to that last question. It was just happening. Yes, we'd been welcomed into these random people's homes. Yes, their neighbors were spending the evening inquiring into our lives with friendliness and ease as though we'd known each other for years. Yes, dinner in this dream world consisted of fried sugar batter and spicy tea. After a few hours of sitting with a constantly changing group of people, neighbors and friends would casually come in and out. The girls showed us to our room. It was the master bedroom. "We can't take this room," Jim and I protested to the girls' parents. "It's your room." "Please," they said, "it is your room." Fatigue and carbohydrate stupor prevented us from fighting any further. We thanked them as profusely as we could for opening their home to us with so much love, and we collapsed on the bed to sleep. A hard knock on the door pulled me from deep slumber. The room was dark, and it took more than a moment for me to remember where we were. Oh yes, at the home of the nicest people in the world who had popped out of some children's storybook to stand at the door and welcome us. Now, they were knocking on our door in the middle of the night. Why? Maybe it has been a mistake. Maybe they thought that we were someone else, someone they knew who was much more worthy of an evening of jalebis and chatting. I groggily felt my way to the door and opened it. The woman of the house, whose name I never did get properly, still looking fresh in her yellow sari, stood there with the bluish tint of fluorescent light streaming from the room behind her. "Come, it's dinner time," she said. "I hope you've rested well." I laughed. I didn't mean to laugh. It just happened. A bodily reaction, like a cough or a burp. She looked at me, confused. "It's okay, yes? Everything is okay? You are comfortable?" Yes, of course. Everything is amazing. You are beyond generous and loving and kind. I just thought we already had dinner." No. That was a snack," she said. And now she laughed too. My phone is vibrating. One moment. That's my alarm going off. I had laughed at how anyone could possibly be expected to eat dinner in the middle of the night, after eating platefuls of jalebis earlier in the evening. She had laughed at how anyone could possibly think jalebis are dinner. Get ready and come soon. Dinner is ready. Jim and I tried to stifle our giggles as we washed our faces. It was insane. We had been awakened in the middle of the night to eat more food. As we dragged ourselves out of the room, back toward the living room, I noticed the guests had left and it was now just the four of them. "This way," the younger of the two daughters said, as she escorted us into the dining area, where a square wooden table stood just off the kitchen. We sat down to plates that had already been served for us. Heaps of fragrant cauliflower and potatoes, a bowl of brown garbanzo beans and sauce called chana, another heap of what looked like mixed vegetables, and a chapati, Indian flatbread the size of a dinner plate. I looked at Jim, and we both bit our lips to prevent bursting into laughter. Seriously? Luckily, Jim could eat and digest pretty much anything. Healthy and athletic, he had an appetite that never waned. I was not able to eat much, though, as the jalebi still took up most of the space in my stomach. Just a little, just one spoonful, each of the family would coax in rotation. I kept laughing inside as it seemed like a comedic dream. Finally, after Jim had graciously eaten for both of us, they let us go back to sleep. The next morning, the father, whose name I did not know at the time but have shamefully forgotten, or that I did know at the time, personally escorted us past their local bus station and all the way to Haridwar, the famous religious city situated about halfway to Rishikesh. Haridwar being a much larger city than Rishikesh, the main bus routes ended there, so he took us there and put us onto the correct bus to our destination. With hugs and promises to meet again, which we all knew we would not keep, we bade each other a love-filled farewell. Had it really been less than 24 hours since we met? Thus we conclude chapter 4. So, we're off to a good start, I think. experiencing what Indian hospitality is like. One of the things that I would be scared for too is having to eat so many things. My tummy is only so big. Especially if it's really spicy. I think I might burst into flames. I don't know. You can let me know if that's something that you would look forward to or be terrified of. We'll pause our reading of Hollywood to the Himalayas there for now, but thank you for listening. And hello, dear Trish, and everyone else who joined while we were reading. We're going to end our live stream rather soon, but thank you for being here. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your 15 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And dear Tirand, thank you for your rose. Om Praum Hanamate Namaha. Dear Magdalene, you share that your eyes would be bigger than your stomach. I'm with you there. Dear Hybrid Jen, you love spicy food? Well, then you don't have so much to worry about. Welcome back, dear Gregor G. Apologies for your dead phone. I hope it has reincarnated. Thank you needs a cool username. Good night, dear Stripe. Francis Bean, you ask, when will I be on to read more? Well, hopefully tomorrow. Every day I like to do a live stream unless, my family needs me or my body needs me, if you know what I mean. I like to read at the start and end of my live streams, so hopefully around the same time tomorrow, and at the beginning, about 3 hours prior, maybe. Otherwise, the snippets of these readings I upload to my Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. Dear Tattvamasi, you share that you say it's 0, not spicy at all, and your son goes, but you are a grown-up. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're all grown-ups in your spice tolerance. I'm with your son. Namaste, dirty hippie gypsy mom. I'm very grateful that you find welcoming energy in this live stream, dear Lily. I can always make it more welcoming. Marlon, you had asked, is it okay that you worry a little too much about your loved ones? I think it's beautiful that you care so much, but don't worry yourself sick, as your loved ones would want you to, have faith that they are going to be protected too, and that they are doing everything they can to continue to be in your life also. And hello, dear Dr. Ginny. You share that you've been listening while hurricane prepping in Tallahassee. That's a great word, Tallahassee. I know it's a name for a place in America, but can't get enough of that name, Tallahassee. But I hope that I'm actually really grateful that you have time to prepare for such an event. May everything that is dear to you be safe and secure. It's in Florida. Tallahassee, Florida. That's right. May you have a good night, dear Lily. Before we go, I did want to end with a meditation, if you wanted to join with me. It's a very simple one today. This is actually the show and tell of dear Loving Guidance, who wanted to share with us some songs of the indigenous population of New Zealand and other islands. This is a song which you may have heard before, but I thought that we would end our live stream on it. It's called Pātea from Pātea Māori Club. They were pretty famous for doing a one-hit wonder of this song. I'll just read the introduction that Wikipedia gives. It is a song by the New Zealand group Pātea Māori Club off of the album of the same name. Released in 1983, the song was sung entirely in the Māori language and features a blend of Māori cultural practices. We're going to watch it together. In the song and accompanying music video, including Māori chanting, poi dancing, and the wearing of traditional Māori kakauhu garments. The song reached number 1 in New Zealand in each of the following 3 decades. It topped the chart for 4 weeks and also became the biggest seller in New Zealand, outselling all international recording artists. Today, the song maintains its status as a cult classic, even in non-Māori New Zealand, as the group behind it, Pātea Māori Club, was a one-hit wonder. However, for the Māori, the song is even more important as it became the anthem of a new generation. Alright, with such an introduction, allow me to just set it up for you. Pause our background music so we can hear it fully, and turn it up so that you are able to hear it. Maximize it. Check. Showing it on the screen. Check. Moving our text. Come on. Check. And pressing play. Pretty awesome. Thank you for listening and watching with me. There was one other thing that Loving Guidance had written about it, which is that word that they're saying, autorior, or however I pronounce it, it's spelled Aoteaora, Adorie. I think it sounded like in the music video. It means New Zealand and boy. I always love to see traditional, likely ancient lineages being embraced in the modern age, finding expression in new forms. Something I really find interesting about the Māori and other indigenous cultures around the world is how easily their traditional chants go along with electronic music. I think that's really interesting. And I find that with the First Nations around my home too, is that a lot of their music works really exceptionally well with synthesizers and other loops. I think it just works. And I love that synergy of modern technology and ancient voices. Thank you. Thank you, Loving Guidance, for sharing that with us. The Linktree in my bio has an application form if you want to submit something like Loving Guidance did for us to explore video. Normally, I will just limit it to something of your own creation. Maybe a song you've made or an art piece or some other personal creative project. But I make some exceptions for the closing meditations for our live stream, such as that one. Nonetheless, we've come to the end of our live stream tonight. Thank you, dear Rhiannon, for your quintet of rosas you sent earlier. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you, dear Anazek, for your trio of roses. Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. And curly haired, thank you for your 10 roses. Ganganapataye Namaha. And dear Cher, thank you for your cloud bread. Radhe Radhe. Hybrid Jen, thank you for your 7 roses. 9 roses in addition, and it applies. Here's some claps for you all, since you're important. Dear Sylvie, thank you for your rose and heart. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And dear Angela, thank you for your rose too. Welcome, dear G. Johnson. I think I saw that you asked the question just as we started our closing segment. And thank you for your positive comments. What was one thing you can do today to improve your existence? Well, just asking that question is one thing, isn't it? Because by being curious about the things that we can improve, we create the space for them to follow. But besides that, we can hold the door open for a stranger. We can smile for them. We can extend our laughter to include one more person. We can listen to someone's story. We can have them feel loved and validated and accepted. Thank you for being here, dear Rhiannon. Michael, you had asked, could I mention something about finding peace at the end of our day? I think one of the easiest practices for peace that we can all do is do a little prayer before we go to bed. What I like to do is I like to sit at the end of my bed and I put my hands together and I just bring my love to the whole of the divinities of all cultures, past, present, and future. And I express my gratitude for all of the things during my day. And of all of the things that I struggled with, I point out the possibility for improving upon them tomorrow. In other words, I count my blessings, and then I look for lessons, and then I go to sleep. Thank you, dear Sylvie, for your rose in your heart. Oh, I thank you for that. Dear Angela, thank you for your rose. My gratitude remains always, even if I have donation lexia. Suniva, thank you for your rose too. Hariom Tatsat. And Jani, thank you for your 22 roses. Dum Durgaye Namaha. You guys are funny. You guys are goofing around in the comment section. All right. Much love, everyone. May you have a wonderful rest of your night. If it's nighttime for you, your evening, your morning, your afternoon. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you, however you choose to identify that. Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Murtyurmamritangamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you, Isabel's Fairy Tales, for your rose. Jai Sitaram. And Anna Pauls, thank you for your heart me. As always, it is never expected, but deeply appreciated. Hare Krishna. And Sylvie, thank you for your applause. Here is one final applause for all of you. And Cody Jane, thank you for your heart me. Thank you, lovely viewers, and my dear moderators, for helping ensure a safe and inclusive space. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.